Hello, good afternoon. My name's Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad and host of the Tall, Friendly Atheist Dad podcast. And yes, this is part 12 of An Atheist Reads The People of the Abyss by Jack London. Hit the intro.
So far from lies and hypocrisy, returns to energy, and silence becomes breathe. Don't ask me the reason why. Just stay. I only dream in black and white. Future's nothingness, but I can choose another end. Opening my eyes, and you beginning in my life. Without emptiness to feel, I am sure of myself. No mercy unto the end.
Hello, yes, welcome to the Tall, Friendly Atheist Dad podcast, An Atheist Read series. Hope you're doing well. Playing on the screen now is a video called Mornington Peninsula Drive, Frankston to Arthur's Seat, from the channel Joe's Wanderings. And I'm going to give him his first like. There you go, Joe. Have a like. And just looking on the screen there, yes, that is a suburb of Frankston. That is that's the good part of Frankston. So along the Frankston is a beachside suburb that back probably 20, 30 years ago was incredible, was very working class to the point, like very, very rough, very scary, very crime riddled. I think they used to call it Frankganistan for how dangerous it was. In recent years, it's really gentrified, and there are essentially two parts to Frankston: the beachside part, which is what you're looking at now, like that closest to the beach, and then more inland. A couple of k's away from the beach. That's where it gets pretty scary. I'll say that much. So anyway, this is part 12 of An Atheist Reads The People of the Abyss by Jack London, and it is quite an interesting history book. So just to give you a little bit of background to the book, Jack London is an American journalist who went undercover in London to see how the other half, the poorer half, lived. This is back in like the early 1900s or late 1800s, 1890 something. I think when Edward was coronated. So I say that much. Yeah, very. But basically, the tail end of the Victorian era and coming in. Yeah, we're about 30 years away from the Victorian or the Elizabethan era. As you notice, a bit more of that. Like the turn of the century. We haven't hit World War I yet. So yeah. Anyway, with a click of the magical fingers, I will start reading the book. We're currently in chapter 12, The Coronation. And yes, that was a pretty grim story anyway. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Every little while boys and young men stop long enough to go behind the bench and give vent to sudden and fiendish shouts. This always jerked the man and woman abruptly from their sleep, and at sight of the startled woe upon their faces, the crowd would roar with laughter as it flooded past. This was the most striking thing, the general heartlessness exhibited on every hand. It is a commonplace. the homeless on the benches, the poor, miserable folk who may be teased and are harmless. 50,000 people must have passed the bench while I sat upon it, and not one, on such a jubilee occasion as the crowning of the king, felt his heartstrings touched sufficiently to come up and say to the woman, "Here's sixpence, go and get a bed." But the women, especially the young women, made witty remarks upon the woman nodding, and invariably set their companions laughing. To use a Briticism, it was cruel. The corresponding Americanism was more appropriate. It was fierce. I confess I began to grow incensed at this happy crowd streaming by, and to extract a sort of satisfaction from the London statistics, which demonstrate that 1 in every 4 adults is destined to die on public charity, either in the workhouse, the infirmary, or the asylum. I talked with the man. He was 54 and a broken down docker. He could only find odd work when there was a large demand for labour, for the younger and stronger men were preferred when times were slack. He had spent a week now on benches of the embankment, but things looked brighter for the next week, and he might possibly get in a few days' work and have a bed in some doss house. He had lived all his life in London, save for 5 years when, in 1878, he saw foreign service in India. Of course he would eat, so would the girl. Days like this were uncommon hard on such as they. Though the coppers were so busy, poor folk could get in more sleep. I awoke the girl, or woman rather, for she was 28, sir, and we started for a coffee house. "What a lot of work putting up the lights," said the man, at sight of some building superbly illuminated. This was the keynote of his being. All his life he had worked, and the whole objective universe, as well as his own soul, he could express in terms only of work. "Coronations is some good," he went on. "They give work to men." "But your belly is empty," I said. "Yes," he answered. "I tried, but there wasn't any chance. My age is against me. What do you work at? Seafaring chap, eh? I knew it from your clothes." "I know what you are," said the girl, "an Italian." "No, he ain't," the man cried heatedly. "He's a Yank, that's what he is. I know." "Lord lummy, look at that," she exclaimed as we debouched upon the strand, choked with the roaring, reeling coronation crowd, the men bellowing and the girls singing in high, throaty notes. "Oh, on Coronation Day, on Coronation Day, we'll have a spree, a jubilee, and shout 'Ip, ip, hooray!' For we all be merry, drinking whiskey, wine, and sherry. We all be merry on Coronation Day." "How dirty am I being around the way I have?" the woman said, as she sat down in a coffee house, wiping the sleep grime from the corners of her eyes. "And the sights I've seen this day, and I enjoyed it, though it was lonesome by myself. And the duchesses and the ladies, and such grand white dresses. They was just beautiful, beautiful." "I'm Irish," she said in answer to a question. "My name's Eyethorn." "What?" I asked. "Eyethorn, sir, Eyethorn." "Spell it." Haythorne. Eyethorn. "Oh," I said, "Irish Cockney." "Yes, sir, London born." Alright, I'm going to pause there. Let's go to the video. Let me just one. That. So this part of the video is that so the king has just been coronated. Jack London has come upon. So remember, Jack London is undercover. He's dressed as a homeless person. He's actually gone through the workhouses and that kind of stuff, and he's met all manner of working poor. And people who spend like the majority of their life on the streets, who go from workhouse to workhouse, or scrap along for what work they can. So where the guy where it says he was 54 and a broken down docker. So we're talking about an age where union protection and like legislated workplace and safety wasn't a thing. If you died on the job, okay, that's the end of your misery. But if you broke your back, if you got an injury, if you got sick, tough luck. If you can't work, you don't get paid. There's very little in the way of public welfare, except for the asylum, and even then, you have to be basically on death's door to warrant a place there. So it's just very I think cruel is the is the word for it. And then the woman is 28. So this is 8 and 20. That means 28. And so they're going towards a coffee house because you can like go to like I suppose what we would refer to as a cafe, but it's more of I think coffee house might be but like a very basic, very bare bones kind of establishment. And so this guy, the docker, he's been he's 54. He's been in London all his life except 5 years of military service. And so that's anyway. I will continue the book. 3, 2, 1. She had lived happily at home till her father died, killed in an accident, when she found herself on the world. One brother was in the army, and the other engaged in keeping a wife and 8 children on 20 shillings a week and unsteady employment. Could do nothing for her. She'd been out of London once in her life, to a place in Essex, 12 miles away, where she'd picked fruit for 3 weeks. And I was brown as a berry when I come back. You won't believe it, but I was. The last place in which she had worked was a coffee house, hours from 7 in the morning till 11 at night, and for which she had received 5 shillings a week, and her food. Then she'd fallen sick, and since emerging from the hospital, had been unable to find anything to do. She wasn't feeling up to much, and the last 2 nights had been spent in the street. Between them, they stowed away a prodigious amount of food, this man and woman, and it was not till I had duplicated and triplicated their original orders that they showed signs of easing down. Let me just knock that off. Oh, this is a Creative Commons video. Why is it? Why the ad? I get it. YouTube. Here I am on YouTube, talking about YouTube. Once she reached across and felt the texture of my coat and shirt, and remarked upon the good clothes the Yanks wore. My rags, good clothes. It put me to the blush, but on inspecting them more closely, and on examining the clothes worn by the man and woman, I began to feel quite well dressed and respectable. What do you expect to do in the end? I asked them. You know, you're growing older every day. Workhouse, said he. God blimey if I do, said she. There's no hope for me, I know, but I'll die on the streets. No workhouse for me, thank you. No indeed. She sniffed in the silence and fell. After you've been out all night in the streets, I asked, what do you do in the morning for something to eat? Try to get a penny if you haven't had one saved over, the man explained. Then go to a coffee house and get a mug of tea. I don't see how that is to feed you, I objected. The pair smiled knowingly. You drink your tea in little sips, he went on, making it last its longest. And you look sharp, and there's some leaves a bit. There's some as leaves a bit behind them. It's surprising the food what some people leaves, the woman broke in. The thing, said the man judicially, as the trick dawned upon me, is to get hold of the penny. As we started to leave, Miss Haythorne gathered up a couple of crusts from the neighbouring tables and thrust them somewhere into her rags. Can't waste them, you know, she said, to which the docker nodded, tucking away a couple of crusts himself. At 3 a.m, I strolled up the embankment. It was a gala night for the homeless, but the police were elsewhere, and each bench was jammed with sleeping occupants. There were as many women as men, and the great majority of them, male and female, were old. Occasionally, a boy was to be seen. On one bench, I noticed a family. A man sitting upright with a sleeping babe in his arms, his wife asleep, her head on his shoulder, and in her lap the head of a sleeping youngster. The man's eyes were wide open. He was staring out over the water and thinking, which is not a good thing for a shelterless man with a family to do. It would not be a pleasant thing to speculate upon his thoughts, but this I know, and all London knows, that cases of out-of-work killing their wives and babies is not an uncommon happening. One cannot walk along the Thames embankment in the small hours of the morning, from the Houses of Parliament past Cleopatra's Needle to Waterloo Bridge, without being reminded of the sufferings 27 centuries ago recited by the author of Job. There are that remove the landmines. They violently take away flocks and feed them. They drive away the ass of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hide themselves together. Behold, as wild asses in the desert, they go forth to their work, seeking diligently for meat. The wilderness yieldeth them food for their children. They cut their provender in the field, and they glean the vintage of the wicked. They lie all night naked without clothing, and have no covering in the cold. They are wet with the showers of the mountains, and embrace the rock for want of a shelter. There are that pluck the fatherless from the breast, and take a pledge of the poor, so that they go about naked without clothing, and being an hungered, they carry the sheaves. Job 24, 2-10. 27 centuries ago, and it is all as true and apposite today in the innermost centre of this Christian civilization, whereof Edward VII is king. So, yeah, that is... Some things haven't changed. It's a fact of life. And yeah, it is, I have to say, depressingly sad. It is, yeah. So basically what Jack did was, Jack London actually tucked some money away in his, in his clothes. In one of the previous chapters, he used that money to treat 2 homeless people he found to a lot of food, really good food. And he's obviously used some of that leftover money in this instance to, help this couple, get some more food. And so what they're doing is when they drink their tea, the tea leaves will, stay at the bottom of the cup. And so eat those. But then what they're essentially doing is picking up the leftovers from strangers. So they drink the tea slowly, they look classy doing it, and then they look at that they look around them for people who have left scraps of food, and they take those scraps of food. It's like, wow, that is yeah. And I think what the other thing the author is trying to highlight here is just the general indifference to the suffering of the people. And this is, I suppose, one thing that makes me glad, in these modern times, is that we are more aware, and we are helping poor people, and we are aware of cost of living pressures and all that kind of stuff. You know, so like we're not like kicking people out, straight away to all that kind of stuff. We are we are. There's more services. There's more. There's more dignity. It, trying to see where he. Arthur Seat is like a small town. It's like a small town, in the far away from Melbourne, and there's like lots of lovely hills and all that kind of stuff, and lots of wine and all that growing. Let's see where. No, I can't really see where. So they are still along the coast. Still, just looking at the. Anyway, I'll read for a few more minutes into the next chapter. So the next chapter is yesterday. Room in down, plump into the Thames, and courtesy to the language will feet by 8 feet would give the cubic airspace required of the room. A Rick dollars would have been ceiling were blood money.